Catherine, first of all, what's your take on this appeal, which, by the way, has some strings attached to it because the companies have to come forward with sworn statements by the CEOs about how they intend to make this conversion ultimately?
The delay is a big win for Uber and Lyft. The California Supreme Court ruled in April of 2018 that hiring entities need to treat their workforce as employees. The California legislature voted last fall, effective January 1, companies need to treat their workforce as employees. Uber and Lyft have had over 2 years to figure out how to comply with the law, and they've just gotten another couple of months to try and figure it out.
So what do you make of the fact that they don't seem to have given that much thought? I mean, I've heard critics say they're drinking their own Kool-Aid.
I think they've given it a great deal of thought. Their lawyers have to have thought about it because they do not have a good argument that they are not the employers of their drivers under California law. But I think they believe that a super low-cost model is their business model, and treating your workforce as employees has costs. Got to pay into the unemployment insurance fund.
Right. Obviously, there's an argument to be made that drivers are essential to Uber service. It's interesting, given that this is happening in the time of a pandemic. You don't have a lot of people using Uber and Lyft anyway, so you wonder if a shutdown would have really impacted the public. Uber Eats, food delivery can continue at this point. Uber and Lyft are banking on Prop 22, which is going on the ballot in November, and banking on California voters to sway in their favor. They say that they would like to keep them as contractors, but will pay them above minimum wage, give them more access to benefits. Do you think public opinion is going to be on their side?
It's hard to know. I'm not a pollster. I can't predict that. But what I will say is that Uber and Lyft have trained the public to expect that to take a ride is a super cheap thing. And they box themselves into the corner that way by saying, well, we can't actually pay our drivers what we would have to pay them in order to ensure they get the minimum wage, in order to compensate them for the use of their cars, in order that if they are injured, they get compensation for their injuries. And so having trained the public to think that a ride in a Uber or a Lyft should be super cheap, they feel that they don't have the option to simply raise prices in order to make the cost of providing the ride reflective of the cost that they're charging the consumers.
Right, especially in a pandemic when not a lot of people are riding anyway, unless they absolutely have to. Now, Uber and Lyft have set this up as a fight between the companies and politicians. They say it's politicians who want this to happen. They say drivers actually don't want to make this change, the vast majority of drivers. And speaking of politicians, earlier today we spoke with the mayor of Stockton, who had something to say about this. Michael Tubbs, take a listen.
I know a lot of people in Stockton drive Uber and Lyft as a supplement for their jobs. I know a lot of people in Stockton who drive Uber and Lyft wish they had healthcare and things of that sort. So I really think it's actually symptomatic of deeper issues. The fact that we don't have a system of universal health coverage is a problem. The fact that we don't have jobs that pay wages that allow people to live with dignity is a problem.
Mayor Tubbs there, part of the mayor's program put forth, by the way, by Michael Bloomberg, the founder of Bloomberg LP and Bloomberg Philanthropies. Catherine, is there a way to compromise here?
There's not an obvious way to compromise. Employers in California have to contribute to the unemployment insurance fund. Why? So that there will be money there for when people become unemployed. When Uber and Lyft drivers became unemployed by the thousands, what did the companies do? Tell them to apply for pandemic unemployment assistance that is funded by general tax revenues. That's asking the taxpayers to subsidize the cost of maintaining their labor force instead of having the companies bear that cost like every other company that has California employees does. And so, yes, of course, there is a compromise. One could lower the minimum wage. One could say we don't actually care about having employers contribute to the cost of health insurance. But the point is, every company that does business in California has to pay the minimum wage, has to pay into unemployment insurance, has to contribute to the cost of the equipment that employees provide that enables them to do their job. What Uber and Lyft are asking for is just that the rules don't apply to them. And that's not the world we live in. If they're going to compete fairly with
All
other
right.
companies, they need to play by the rules.